this is Kirk Hilliard.
This is Rusty Bird. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show, and we are going to dig a little bit deeper. We've got some professionals with us today. Again, we got Justin Ditmore coming out of the Roanoke area. Justin is a former sports director, and he hosts a radio talk show on sports. He's a Hokie. So welcome to the show, Justin.
Woo! Glad to be back. Appreciate it.
Yes. And we've got Larry Rubama. Everybody knows Larry. He's big time in the 757 with the Virginia Pilot. He's a sports writer, a columnist. You also can find him on the Daily Press. And he's a former track athlete at Ohio University, running in the MAC, Division I athlete. And he gives us some good stuff every year. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Woo! Glad to be back, guys. Glad to be back.
Yeah, and everyone's favorite, Mr. 12-0 last week in the state semifinals, Jason Sterling, Dinwiddie, wide receiver, football star, and knows a lot about Stonebridge. His son was a star there, and he has helped the program in a lot of ways. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Appreciate it, Rusty. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, Kirk Hilliard, three-sport star athlete at Phoebus High School, one of the teams that has advanced to the state finals and going for their 10th in about 20 years, 22 years, right?
It's 22 or 23.
Okay, yeah. This is going to be a lot of fun. Kirk, why don't you tell folks where they can find us?
Yeah, please subscribe to us on YouTube, and then we'd like for you to follow us on Twitter at the Kirk and Byrd. And we're starting a Facebook. We started the Facebook forum up here in Northern Virginia called the 703-540 Nova High School Sports Forum. We're getting a trickle. I've been putting out content. So join us there. And you don't want to leave out that Larry went to Our Lady of Good Counsel in the Catholic League up here. So got to give Larry props for that.
And Falls Church High School as well.
And Falls Church. No, yeah. That's right. Falls Church, the Jaguars. Justin, Larry, if there's anything you want to promote or just tell people where they can find you on Twitter, whatever, Facebook, MySpace, Black Planet, whatever. Go ahead. Justin, where can we find Justin?
You can find us on Facebook, our high school football broadcasts are the Haley Toyota High School Football Game of the Week. And our basketball broadcasts are the Haley Toyota High School Basketball Game of the Week. You can find all that information on Facebook, and you can get all the links to where you can listen to the games. We do them either on radio, on internet, on Facebook, or a combination of all three.
Go get your Toyota from Haley. No doubt.
That's right.
Larry.
Yeah, you can find me at on Twitter at LH Rubama. And you can find us at 757 Teams, spelled with a Z, 757TEMZ.com. You'll get stuff from both the Daily Press and the Virginian Pilot. It's
worth it to pay for a subscription to the Virginia Pilot. They put out some great content. And I've paid, I don't even think about it, and I mean, and watch the post. I love just being able to click, because I'm always a dude that just uses up their free articles.
Yeah.
So I pay for it, and I want to support. Want to support.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Rusty.
Me too.
I do.
I'm there.
Yeah. Got to support our local papers. All right. Jason, anything you want to promote?
I want to promote high school football, man. Let's go.
Yeah, all right. So Kirk, you got us, man. Let's go. You'll be driving.
Yes. So for everybody watching, we are going to do the Class 3 finals, which is going to have the Lafayette Rams facing Liberty Christian. We're going to go over 4, which will have Phoebus Phantoms facing Salem. And then we will also go over 5, which will have the Maury Commodores facing the Stonebridge Bulldogs. So we're going to start with 3, and we've got 2 guys here that professional journalists that know both teams, and that's going to be Lafayette, Great Tradition High School, that's going to be facing Liberty Christian. Liberty Christian's undefeated. They defeated Salem, guys. They've had an impressive record, as has Lafayette. I'm going to let Larry. I'll let you go first. That's a team in Williamsburg. A lot of people don't realize Williamsburg and James City County. That's part of the 757 for us guys. Tell us a little bit more about Lafayette. We've been impressed with them this year, Larry.
Yeah, I've been impressed with them as well. You know, when the season began, we had heard that it was going to be kind of a rebuilding year for them, and hasn't been rebuilding at all. They even got a special visitor. I believe it was last week, either last week or the week before last. Lawrence Taylor came and visited them.
Yeah.
They just been, I mean, just grind. You know, the kids talk about grinding and all that all the time. And that's what they've been doing. I really like one of the players I love on their team is Nazir Walmart. He does it on defense. He's got more than 70 tackles, 13 for loss, and he also does it rushing. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards now. It's probably closer to 1,100 now. He's been a great two-way player for them. They also have James Spencer, another running back who's rushed for over 1,200 yards, and then the quarterback. He's not what do you call flashy or anything? He just gets the job done as well as Lafayette does all the time. And quarterback Hayden Oleski is throwing for over 1,183 yards, 14 touchdowns. And he's got a really good wide receiver in Elijah Matthews. He's got about over 30 receptions for more than 500 yards, 6 touchdowns. It's a team that, you know, has just been doing it on defense. I mean, they held Brentsville District to 98 yards. And so they got a defense that is, you know, fierce and competitive, but and then the offense just does enough to be able to get it done. And they've just been rolling. Like I said, we thought in the beginning of the year that they were going to be a team that might be rebuilding, and they fooled us, and they've just been rolling all through the Bay Rivers this year.
So they're going to be going up against undefeated Liberty Christian team.
Yeah.
And that's a school that can recruit. And Phoebus faced them, was a couple years ago. Heritage last year, Liberty Christian the year before. And Justin, that's in the Roanoke area for coverage. I mean, I know you're familiar with them. I've talked with Andre Kendrick about them, and they are a very good team with a spectacular running back. Justin, tell us more about who Lafayette's going up against in Liberty Christian.
Yeah, Liberty Christian's the real deal. The tailback you mentioned, Gideon Davidson, he's a junior. He's already committed to Clemson. He's one of the top 5 running backs in the country, not in the state of Virginia, in the country. Last week, he had over 220 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns against a William Byrd team, which hadn't been run on all year. And to the surprise of me, because I know I sat on this show last week and said I thought William Byrd could win that game. Liberty Christian housed them. It was 49-6, and it wasn't even close. And LCA just has – their offensive line is massive. They average about 6'2", about 260. They've got an offensive lineman, Easton Ware, who's 6'1", 305. He's committed to go play at Clemson. Their 2 tight ends are each about 6'2", 6'5", 235. Western Woodard is one of them. He's getting recruited by everybody. And their quarterback, Jeb Moon, kind of like what Larry said for Lafayette, the quarterback, you're not going to watch him and go, wow. But he just runs the offense, makes the throws, doesn't make mistakes, and they're very tough to move the ball on. And with Davidson, he's one of those guys that when he gets loose, you've got trouble because there's not a whole lot of guys that can catch him.
Yeah.
So, Justin, I have a question for you. So, and you too, Larry. So, if I'm coming to this game, what can I expect to see in terms of the style of play? Everybody may not have seen last week's episode, Justin, but I thought you did with Salem and Liberty Christian. We are so used to seeing the ball fly around now, but I know Liberty Christian can pound the rock. But what do they look like if they have to throw the ball? And then I'll come back to you, Larry, with that same question. Like, what can we expect to see? Because I tell you, our Class 4 is going to be old school. But go ahead, Justin.
And LCA does a lot of that. They love to run Davidson. They've got another tailback who went over 100 yards against William Byrd last week. And what they like to do is like to go 2 tight end. They like to line up and try to just pound you. And then all of a sudden they'll fake it to Davidson, bootleg the quarterback outside and get one of those big tight ends out loose in the flat. Don't expect LCA to just try to drop the ball and hit you big downfield. They just want to line you up, mash you at the line of scrimmage, hit their tight end. They'll get Davidson loose out of the backfield. It's not a team that's going to go 4 wide and try to spread you out. If they're going 4 wide, it's because somehow they've gotten down pretty big. They like to go 2 tight ends, maybe just 2 wide, and just like to just hand the ball to one of the best running backs in the country.
Like I asked you last week with Salem, is their quarterback under center or is he in shotgun
Yes.
most?
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll do a little
Good
of both,
stuff.
but he's under center for the most part.
All right. I love old school. That's what you see back there at Bethel High School. Larry, Lafayette, what do they do?
Well, with Lafayette, pretty much the whole season, I mean, they got two guys who rushed for over 1,000 yards, so they're running the ball, but they just started passing the ball a little bit more because Elijah Matthews just came back. Not just came back, but he came back from injury, so that kind of allows them to be able to kind of be both ways. But I mean, they've been running the ball pretty much all season already. I'm thinking they're going to pretty much stick to that as well. And the one thing I thought about as well is, with this game coming up, it's going to be kind of a home game for Liberty. The fact that they're in Liberty, I mean, that's going to make a difference. How many of the people from Lafayette? I'm sure they will travel well, but Liberty's going to be playing right there in their city. So I think that's going to have a huge make a big difference as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to bring that up. That's essentially a home game for Liberty, but it is the later game, and weather is supposed to be nice. Any gut feeling on this one, Larry? Who do you like to win this one?
I got to go with Liberty because I think that home field, but also, I mean, just from the, not only did I hear stuff before, but also what Justin was saying, I just think that they Liberty looks really, really good. Like I said, we thought this year Lafayette, it was going to be a rebuilding year. The fact that they got to this point is good. I know they're not thinking, well, we're here, we're happy. No, we're not satisfied. They want to win this thing, but it's a big difference when you're going on the road playing in a city. Those kids from Liberty Christian can sleep in their own bed. I mean, not that the kids Lafayette can't, but they're not traveling. I mean, it's a good it's a good drive. It's a good drive from Williamsburg to Liberty, and that plays a part on your legs. And even if they go up the night before, you're still traveling, and so I think that will have an effect as well.
Yeah. How about you, Justin? What are you thinking?
Yeah, and I agree because, remember, these are high school kids.
Right.
They're not used to, they're used to getting on a bus that day of and going an hour at the most. Now, if they're spending the night, all of a sudden it's a big deal. They're in a hotel. They're out of their element. Their parents aren't around. Some of them are really happy their parents aren't around. So I think the home field is the big deal. A couple of years ago, Lafayette played Lord Botetourt in a state final game. Botetourt has the similar style of their huge up front, and Lafayette beat them. They handled Botetourt's size and speed, but I think the playing in Lynchburg is where the Gideon Davidson show continues.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Now, we're going to release another episode in the morning, and we did our regular prediction stuff. But Jason, tell us your thoughts and any predictions, and then we'll come back around everybody else with.
I think Liberty Christian's a stronger team here, guys. I've got them winning pretty handily, and this is not a knock on Lafayette. I just think this Liberty Christian team is special this year. I think some of their athletes are just absolutely top notch. I mean, you don't see a lot of Class 3 schools get double Clemson commits. And one of them's a junior, right? So I mean, this is that's pretty rare. Something that interests me though in this game, the coaches. Both of these coaches have been to their schools for a long time. Andy Lynn at Lafayette since 11, and Frank Rocco, I think he's had 2 stints. I think he maybe had a couple years off in there, Justin. But I think he started at Liberty Christian back in 2004, if I'm not mistaken. So very tenured coaching, which I think, obviously can help both teams and, trying to put this together. They've got a lot of big game experience amongst the coaches there. But I do think Liberty Christian's just from a talent standpoint, probably got a little too much for in that home field as well. I mean, the lack of travel that can, when you're 16, 17, 18 years old, your rhythm can get thrown off depending on what you do the night before. So,
yeah.
So it sounds like everybody thinks Liberty Christian is going to win. Okay. Now we're gonna transition to Class 4, but before we do that, much like the college football playoffs, Florida State got left out, right? So when I think from all the discussions I've heard, things I've seen online, if there was to be a Virginia high school class, not class dependent, people would say we would have Maury, Freedom, Highland Springs, and Phoebus. Are we cutting Liberty Christian short? Are they Florida State in this case?
I mean, they're my 5 right now.
Yeah. I think LCA in that scenario, LCA is like the TCU in Cincinnati of years past.
Yeah.
They don't quite have the track record, so they're not going to get that love. But this year, like Jason said, how many schools have 2 Clemson commits in Class 3?
So you're saying Highland Springs is Alabama. We're just going to put them in because they're part of the SEC and they got 1 loss. And we got teams that are undefeated. Okay. See how you roll, Justin.
I put Stonebridge
I'm on
in there
record.
at 6.
I'm on record as saying Florida State doesn't belong in the playoff. So
really?
That's a different show for a different time.
Yeah. Oh, we will need to do that then. Yes. Before New Year's Eve, we will have to do that. All right. Any other thoughts? Anybody else think that they're right there at the number 5?
Yeah.
So
They're
you
good.
think
they are good, man.
Head to head, you think they would lose to every team above them?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
They're very good, but those teams you mentioned all have enough size to kind of match up a little better and have maybe a few more guys that can maybe
probably a little more depth.
Right.
Athletes, the depth. Yeah, the depth of the athletes.
And that's usually the difference between some Power 5 and Group 5s or the SEC and everybody else. Because the guy on the SEC bench would dominate if he was playing at Liberty or for Liberty. Right. All right. So thank you. Great stuff, guys. Let's go ahead and transition now to Class 4. Class 4 is a matchup with Salem and Phoebus. The first game at Liberty University that day. Like, why don't you tell us a little bit about Phoebus?
I saw Phoebus play against Warwick. I saw Phoebus play another game earlier this year. It's one of those, it's a machine. They just keep on. You think there's going to be a season when they're going to be down. Even when they lost their starting quarterback to an injury and a freshman, I was going to say true freshman. We don't have that in high school, but a freshman, not yet. Not yet. You got it right. Hey, just
they reclassify all the time.
Up here, if they're good, watch how many years they were in middle school. Go back.
But they've won 34 games in a row. They just keep getting it done. Every time you doubt them, they still keep them done. I watched their defense play against Warwick, which it was a really, really close game. But Phoebus is going to take advantage of your mistakes, and they continue to do that. I mean, they were trailing by 1 point in the third quarter, and they pulled that game out. The defense is just solid. Led by Anthony Reddick, the Maryland commit. Also, they got Tayshawn Stevenson, who's going to ODU. Those 2 guys have been doing it all season. They also got Nathaniel Anthony, Marcus Hobson, Deshaun Richardson. And like I said, a guy graduates and they put another guy in there, and that guy's just going to be just as good, if not better, than the one who was there before. And then they got a good running back and Davion Roberts. They just find a way to get it done. I talked a little bit about the quarterback going down early in the year. It was Adonis Stowers went down, and I thought when that next game, I'm thinking, well, I'm not gonna. When we had to make our predictions, I said I'm not gonna give him too many points because I don't know what this freshman's gonna do. And he comes in, he's throwing for 112 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 game, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns, another game, 171 yards against a very, very, very good King George team, and they just seem to get it done. And then Coach Blunt, man, he been there, done that. He knows how to do it. He knows the tradition. He's talked to all of his players about the tradition, how it has to continue to keep going, and all those players realize, I don't want this thing to end on me. So that gives them a little bit more motivation to go out there to make sure, no, we don't want to be the one that that loses. On top of that, this is their they went to 4 straight state titles earlier. Now they're going to their 3rd straight now. They're just tough. You don't even try to pick against them. But we'll see what happens this week. We'll see what happens again.
Yep.
Okay.
They're not facing. I mean, they've got a formidable opponent, and Salem beat an undefeated Tuscarora team, and they lost very closely to Liberty Christian, and they beat EC Glass twice. Justin Ditmore. They've had other quality wins. Forest is a great team down there. They've headliners, obviously. Peyton Lewis, who had 350 plus yards against Tuscarora, and then Chris Cole. What's Phoebus going to be going up against, Justin Ditmore?
It's going to be the same thing you saw against Tuscarora is the same thing they've done for the last, I've been covering them for 30 years. And that offense hasn't changed. They're going to line up in the eye. They're going to do fullback dive. They're going to run Lewis between the tackles. They'll throw a little pass here and there. Eli Taylor can manage the game and get the ball downfield, but they're just going to they're going to try to out fundamental you. And where Larry talked about, Phoebus will jump on a mistake, and in that one game where they scored a zillion points, that got crazy. Salem doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, so they don't do a lot of penalties. They did have the one fumble against Tuscarora that basically handed them a touchdown, but they don't make a lot of mistakes. They're very fundamentally solid, and the stage isn't too big for these guys. They've won 10 state championships.
Yeah.
They've done this before. I mentioned it last week. They played Lake Taylor a couple years ago, and Lake Taylor had a bunch of D1 kids, and Salem beat them. So the stage won't be too big. Now, Phoebus may very well win the game because Phoebus is very good, but I don't think it'll be a case of Salem getting out there and being wide-eyed, because you mentioned it. They're starting 3 linebackers. Chris Cole's going to Georgia. He's the best player in the state. Peyton Lewis is ranked 4th in the state. He's going to play running back at Tennessee. And their middle linebacker, Jalen Allen, should be going to Tech or UVA. Right now, he's getting looked at by the Marshalls and JMUs of the world.
Yeah.
But both of those schools aren't good enough to overlook this kid. He's 6'3", he's 220, he plays tight end, he plays middle linebacker, he runs. I've seen this long enough to know, don't bet against Salem in a big game.
One of the things that I've heard is, they're going to run a lot of power football.
Yep.
But I believe, and you both can back me up on this, is that Phoebus is going to have a significant size advantage. The Phoebus line, we don't talk about Marks Hobson enough. And then, Tayshawn and Trey Reddick, both great ends. And by the way, Trey's a mismatch. Anthony Reddick is a mismatch as a receiver. He is number 8. But I think that could be a factor because Tuscarora was bigger, but that did not stop them. What's your feeling on that, Larry Rubama? Because Phoebus is a big physical team, even being Class 4. They're up there with the Freedoms.
When I watched them play against Warwick, and I saw how, Warwick, was nice size, but those boys for Phoebus, man, they were some big boys. They made me think about some of the old teams from Ocean Lakes, them big boys, Noddy and those guys, and then as well some of those old school teams from Oscar Smith. Huge line. You just look at them, you're like, Daddy, and they can move. I'm like, I don't know what these kids are eating, but man, these kids can move too. They shouldn't be that big, moving that fast. But I agree. I think that they got a really, really nice sized team. That line is, they're going after, they're coming at you, and they don't stop. The game against Warwick, it was a great defensive battle, and I didn't see these guys get tired at all. They're just like, they're just going at it. And a lot of times you see some of these teams when they get to the 3rd, 4th quarter, they start wearing down. I watched it with Maury when they did it against Indian River. You could just see they were defeated. So, the one thing with Phoebus, though, like I said before, that tradition, these kids know what it means to play in this Phoebus tradition. They don't want to be the ones to say we lost. And so I think that has a huge thing. Psychologically, they go on the field feeling, okay, we could beat anybody. Even if they might not be able to, but they go out there feeling they can beat anybody.
Yeah, and I agree. Salem does not have size up front. They're fundamentally sound, but their line, they'll do, it's double teams and power blocking. And when LCA beat them to start the season, that's what they did. I don't think LCA threw more than 3 passes, and they just were able to push. And in the 4th quarter, it's tied at 14. Davidson busted off a long run, led to a touchdown. So yeah, the size thing, it is an issue. They've faced it in the past and done well, but you just wonder, to Larry's point, Phoebus is so big, and you've got, like you said, something that big shouldn't move that fast.
No.
And if you got enough of them at some point in that 4th quarter, 3 and 4 and 5 yard runs start becoming 8, 9, 10 yard runs.
Right. It's interesting you said it too. I know on the other side on defense, when they played against Warwick was, they were right there. They were in the game, and it wasn't a blowout at all. And then, but you see Reddick, they just couldn't. He just kept going. Talk about the motor of a kid. He just kept coming and kept coming. When he wasn't coming, Stevenson was coming. It was just like they were sitting just continuing through the whole game, wearing you down, on defense. And that's what I think will, like I said, they don't want to be the ones that lose. That's for sure.
Right.
All right. Now, before we get your predictions, I brought this up on our episode last night, talking about this particular game. I got criticized because I picked King George. But one of the things I brought up is the fact that Phoebus has played all of their games on grass fields. Okay. And that works with their style of play. They got these big linemen, they in the trenches, and they're just, pounding the ball. And on Saturday, it was rainy. It was a bad old grass field. And that played to their advantage as opposed to a King George that wants to be able to run, be fast, throw the ball. And so now we're going to go to Liberty. It's a turf field, and Salem runs, but I don't know their blocking scheme. From what I saw, that young man against Tuscarora, he just needs a little bit of daylight. And I know we're saying Phoebus's defensive line, they're big and fast, but Peyton Lewis is the fastest athlete in the state of Virginia. Okay. Period. 1 to 100, fastest time class, didn't matter. So does that make a big difference? The fact that he's on turf, Phoebus speed isn't just their game, and they have it, but do you see that being a big factor? And remember, Phoebus was down. They won. They won by 12, but they were down
13-12
going into the fourth quarter. And look, Tuscarora was tied, and it was close through the third quarter, but then Salem pulled away. It's going to be fun. This is going to be a chess match because you got two teams playing, like Jeremiah said last week, Tuscarora and Salem. He said, hey, these teams are built to stop themselves. Okay. Salem would be good and built to stop a team like themselves, and that's what they have. Phoebus, same thing.
Yeah. Larry, who do you like?
28-21 Phoebus. I just they find a way to win. I mean, they find a way to win.
They'll be that close. Jason?
So follow me here real quick for a second, guys, if you can. Statistically this year, Tuscarora had the best defense they've ever had. Peyton Lewis went 30 carries for 373 and 4 end zones in that game. And he could have been the defensive player of the game.
Yeah. And Jeremiah brought up the fact that Tuscarora, one of their strengths was their defensive line.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, man. I mean, he just buried him on offense. He was probably the best defensive player on the field. Yeah. Now, here's the thing about Phoebus, though. Kirk, there's talk, and again, I hate to compare this, but there are a lot of people that are starting to think of this team as like the 07 and the 08 team. That 08 team, you guys know these numbers. They gave up 47 points in 15 games. Phoebus did.
Yep.
They were written about in almost every national paper because of that defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is crazy. And if there's any comparison to that, I mean, that tells you how good this Phoebus team is. I love this matchup. Old school Salem, 9 titles. Old school Phoebus, 10 titles with that Black Ops defense. I think it could go either way. I'm taking Phoebus because I take defenses in these types of games, but that's just a hunch on my part. I've got them 27-14. But if I look over and I see that score, it's the other way around, it wouldn't surprise me. But give me Phoebus 27-14.
I like Phoebus either 31-14, 31-17. I think Phoebus is Salem hasn't seen a team like this with speed and athleticism.
Yes, they have.
No, they haven't. So
okay. Wait a minute. But Phoebus hasn't seen a team like this. Let's go through that Peninsula District.
I think King George is better. I think King
everybody,
Denby,
Woodside, Bethel, Menchville. They're
that is a good point,
and
Rusty.
They're little.
That is
tell me point. About
right.
They haven't played anybody.
Salem has had a tougher schedule. But what I'm saying is that you can't compare Tuscarora and Phoebus. We haven't talked about the offense. Davion Roberts has been a workhorse. Marcus Banks is playing extremely well. Some feel he may be a better quarterback than Adonis at this stage. I just think it's too much Phoebus. I like that you threw that in there. That's going to give them some bulletin board material. But I like Phoebus by 14-17.
I picked Phoebus, but I actually have a surprise for everybody. I'm changing my prediction. I've got Salem with that kicker. Yesterday I said the score will be 28-27 Phoebus. I've got Salem with that kicker kicking a field goal to win 30-28. Phoebus, I still got love for you. One of the reasons I changed my pick, and I want to give this brother a shout out because he might be right. Brian Harmon on Facebook, all right, gave all these reasons as to why I was wrong. Brian, I did a little more research, and I want to let you know that because of you, I changed my pick. So all y'all Phoebus fans, when Phoebus loses, it's not my fault. Not my fault. Brian Harmon, it's on you, dog.
There you go, Brian. You're the reason Phoebus.
Good luck, Brian. That noise you hear is the bus backing up. Yeah.
Yep.
So all of those defensive backs that were motivated by what I said, and all those defensive linemen, you need to be motivated by Brian.
I know sanity is going to take back over with you guys picking Phoebus, but I wanted to ask Justin Ditmore one last question with the turf and the speed. I do believe Phoebus will stack the box and make Salem pass. Now, I believe, Justin, you told me they'll go to some 4 wideout sets, right?
They will, but
And they
that's
have a
only
big
usually when they trail.
Right.
You know, they're almost maddeningly stubborn about lining up in that eye and going. I mean, I'm telling you, when they get creative, they send 2 receivers to one side of the formation. That's, you know, that they don't. It's the eye, it's the eye, it's the eye. It's a fullback dive, it's a fullback dive, and then to your point about stacking the line, you can do that. The issue is if Lewis gets through that line, you don't have anybody to catch him.
Right.
And and what they do is they'll pound him. It'll be 3 yards. It'll be 4 yards. It'll be 3 yards. And then all of a sudden, somebody gets up to a linebacker. Somebody misses an assignment. And all of a sudden, Mr. State Champ turns it loose. And there's a bunch of guys staring at the back of his uniform.
And then rounding it out, I think Stonebridge and Maury is the most anticipated game, right? You know, 2 great coaches. Doreen McCain, unbelievable success. We just talked about Wise just won the state championship in Maryland, and they opened with Wise. They went to Dinwiddie. They beat Highland Springs. I mean, Maury is an impressive team. And then Stonebridge, it's a little askew. They started off winless. They had some losses, but they've ran everything off. So for the folks up here, you know, in this fan base, Stonebridge's got a rabid fan base. What are they going to be looking into? Because Maury seems to almost be, you know, a Goliath in Stonebridge with a David role, but Larry Rubama is a well-rounded team. You know, a lot of college athletes.
Yeah.
Tell us about Maury Commodores.
I've been covering high school football down in the 757 since 2000. And this Maury team, when I look at those top Oscar Smith teams, I look at those top, you know, the Phoebus teams, Hampton teams, Lake Taylor teams. This team right here is in my top 10 of all the teams I've seen in this area. Is that good? And what's scary is they'll probably be better next year.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
And the thing about it was the game this past, they've outscored teams 8-19 to 118. They've got 7 shutouts, including against Indian River. The thing about this team is they take on the personality of their coach. DeRee I remember he was a hell of a player. He would just get into you and just, you know, gritty type guy. And the teams that he has follow his personality. Indian River was really excited because they stopped Maury on the first possession and made him punt.
Yeah.
They came off the field real excited. And then it turned into a rout for the next 7 minutes. They have like 4 or 5 guys that can take the ball. We were talking about speed before. They got a kid named LeBron. Oh my goodness, I forgot LeBron Bond. Who he is he finished in the finals in the 100 and the 200. Incredible speed. They also have Josh Powell who can take a distance. They got Fred Johnson, Elijah Moss, Devontae Floyd. These are all 5 wide receivers. All of them have more than 20 catches. Bond has 43 receptions for over 1,200 yards. Then on top of that, so you got those receivers. I don't know if you guys have seen this quarterback.
Maury Newkirk.
Man. Everybody says it. The thing they say on him, he throws the ball like Michael Vick. He can also run the ball. I'm not saying he's Michael Vick. I'm not saying he's Michael Vick. Nowhere close. He throws a nice ball. He's accounted for over 4,000 all-purpose yards this season, 51 touchdowns. He's thrown for over 2,400 yards this year. He's composed. His worst game that I saw him play was this past week. He didn't really do much. He threw a couple screens that they took for touchdowns, but he wasn't really a big factor in the game. They did it on special teams. They did it on with their defense. They did it with their offense. And then on top of that, if that's not enough, they got 3 wide receivers. All of them are near 1,000 yards. They got one guy who's over 1,000 yards and 2 other ones who have over 870 yards. And they account for over 30 touchdowns. This team, and then the defense, their defensive backs, their linebackers. You know, everybody talks about the South Carolina commit Fred Johnson, who's a beast. He's a beast. He was the Eastern District Player of the Year, no doubt. They also talk about the 4-star player Ari Watford, who's doing his thing. But they got a kid named Leslie Hines, who doesn't look like he should be able to do anything, and he leads the team in tackles, sacks, forced fumbles, and fumble recoveries. Like I said, but the main thing is this team has not forgotten when Stonebridge beat them the last time. And I don't know exactly what happened, but something pissed off the
coaches.
Yes. I don't know exactly about that. I've heard many, but that's all they've been talking about this whole year. All they've been talking about is getting back and getting it done. If they don't win this game, it will be a failure. I mean, most teams say, but this team, when I've interviewed kids from the first game, when they beat Dinwiddie, they went to Dinwiddie, beat Dinwiddie there. They beat Highland Springs, they beat Wise. When I talked to the players and the coaches, all they kept pointing to was this date. They wanted to get to this game coming up. And I said, well, what about December? And they would say the date. That's all they talked about, even when they beat Dinwiddie. I mean, so this team, he played that tough schedule that made him be able to overcome things, to be at Dinwiddie and trailing Dinwiddie and to be able to do what they did and come back the way they did. I mean, if anybody's been to Dinwiddie, you know that environment is like.
Yeah.
To beat Highland Springs, that was, a team that had been dominating them for year after year after year.
Yeah.
For them to come back and say, no, we're going to get you this time. And then to go on. And then on top of that, he scrimmaged Gonzaga and Phoebus and beat both of them as well. So DeRee knows what he's doing. This team, they are so focused on this game. If they lose, oh my God, I hate to see what happened. But that's why I just think Maury is going to be ready for this game. This is what they've wanted. They say be careful what you ask for, but they want this bad. They can taste it. They want this bad. And then to go against Stonebridge, which beat them on that last second play 2 years ago. They haven't got that either. So they got a lot of motivation, as if they need any, but they're ready. They're ready for this.
Yeah. Jason, you know a lot about these teams. What are your thoughts?
So everything that Larry's saying is exactly right. I mean, this team is a juggernaut. This LeBron Bond kid, I think LeBron James and James Bond got into a lab and put this guy together. I mean, he's just a super, super kid. And you could probably say that about 12 to 14 of these guys on this team. I mean, just super athletic. But I will tell you, and you guys know Stonebridge, this is their 12th state title game in the last 24 years. So, they're a team that will not be intimidated going in. They know what they're doing. They know this routine. You mentioned it, Kirk. They started off slow this year. They had a brutal schedule, very similar to Maury right out the gate. Maury handled their schedule better than Stonebridge did. Stonebridge lost to Madison, Martinsburg, Quince Orchard, and Good Counsel. They got one win technically in there against Woodgrove, but that was a forfeit during that Lightning weekend. So they didn't win a game on the field until October 6th. And here they are in the state final game. So they ran the table in the district. They ran the table in the Region D playoffs. They beat Massaponax, Briar. And then this past week in the semifinal, they were able to put away a very good Matoka team. One thing I'll point out that may be interesting here, guys, for both teams, Stonebridge has played 2 less games this year than Maury because the Woodgrove game was a forfeit, and then they had to bye in round 1. So I'm just curious to see how that could help one of the teams. I'm not really sure. It's probably not that much of a big deal, but this is Maury's 15th game, and Stonebridge is technically 13th game, but 14th from a schedule standpoint. So a little bit about their offense, if I could. It's that it's that base single wing, and you guys have all seen single wing, it. But they do a lot different with this single wing now. I mean, you get all those counter runs, you get those quarterback spinners, you get the direct snaps to the running back, you get the direct snaps to the running back who then turns around and hands off to the quarterback. All kinds of things out of that, right? And then when it's functioning well, it's a beauty to watch. So I think any of the fans that maybe have not seen it for the first time would really enjoy watching that offense in motion. I call it a sort of a Gen Z single wing because it's a new type of single wing that you're seeing out there. So Brandon Pena is the quarterback. He's a junior. He's much improved from last year. He's only got 3 interceptions on the year. He's very steady in the run game. Guiding a single wing offense as a quarterback can be tough. There's a lot of motion, a lot of moving parts in that thing. So you've really got to know what you're doing to be able to guide that offense. Troy Marquez was just named the Potomac District Player of the Year. He's a 3-sport athlete. He'll get the bulk of the work from the running back position. He's pushing 1,000 yards with 8 touchdowns on the season. Good combination of speed and power. A couple good guys backing him up, Tyson Miller and Karan Rucker. They're both very capable backs. Their wing back made all district in 2 different positions, all-purpose and second-team running back. First team all-purpose, second-team running back. That's Jordan Kaiser. Not big guy, but very shifty, very quick. Their main deep threat is Naeem Gladding, and he's really picked it up the second half of the season. He was a transfer in from Christ the King. He's a very physical receiver. He's put over 500 pounds up on the squat rack as a wide receiver, guys. So he can really run people over. He's got a great stiff arm. He's got multiple offers at D1, Pitt, Liberty, Temple. He's got interest right now from Clemson and Penn State, Syracuse, among other teams. We'd look for him to have a big game in this, and they're going to need him to have a big game. And of course, if none of that works, you give the ball to Miles Turpin. He's the safety, but plays a lot of offense for him when they really get in trouble. Wake Forest commit. Anything he can do on a football field, is phenomenal. He can line him up at quarterback, slot receiver, wide receiver, running back, any type of position. He's one of those guys that can play anything. And here's the thing about their offense: they're big up front. They're not the biggest team Coach Thompson's ever had, but they're close to it, guys. They've got multiple first-team all-district guys up there. They got Caden Zalacki, 6'7", 305. They've got 2 juniors, Christian Evans and David Rodella, were first-team all-selection. That's 6'3", 280 for Christian Evans, 6'2", 300 for David Rodella. And another junior who was second-team, Furkan Shabuk, who's 6'1", 285. So they got some dudes up front that can move that line around. And their tight end, Will Cross, also was first-team all-district. They don't throw to him a lot, but he's a punishing runner, blocker when it comes to their running game. Real quick on the defense, anchored in the middle by Nate Moorhead, big kid. He actually got significant playing time 4 years ago as a freshman in the spring COVID game, title game against Highland Springs. That's how long he's been around the program, and that's how good he was as a freshman. He also he's a menace in the weight room. He's also over 500 pounds on the squat, 400 pounds on the bench press. So he's a very strong kid. Christian Evans goes across the line, and he'll play on that line too. Kenny Appling, the linebackers are great. They got 4 all-district linebackers that are in there. Jonathan Newton and Tristan Putnam are your headliners. Huge tacklers. Newton looks the part. He's about 6'2", 220. He can pick you up and put you down. And then, of course, Miles Turpin patrolling the middle of the field there. And then here's where it gets really cool for Stonebridge. Sean Robertson is a lockdown corner. And then on the other side, you've got 2 names here, Chase Geeter and Xavier.
Chase.
So just to give your viewers a little bit about these 2 guys real quick. Chase's dad is on Mickey's staff.
Yep.
Chase's
That's my boy.
Deuce, yep. And the rest of you know these guys very well, is playing at Bucknell now. So that's a big brother little thing. Xavier Wimbush, for all those Maury fans, they're not going to like that name. He's Zeke Wimbush's little brother. He's the kid that caught the Hail Mary a couple of years ago in that title game that ended that for Maury. So, and then a couple other linebackers, Amari Kamara is Mikhail Kamara's little brother. He's one of those studs on the JMU defensive line this year. He had 17.5 tackles for losses and 6.5 sacks. So a lot of brotherly love, big brother, little brother stuff happening at Stonebridge on the defense, and hopefully they pass that mentality down. And the last thing I'll say about players here, guys, Connor McLaughlin is back. He is their first-team all-district kicker, committed to Virginia Tech to kick.
That is big.
Get this. One game I want to highlight against Potomac Falls. It's a random game I looked at, October 6th. He had kickoffs of 70, 68, 68, 69, and 68 yards in that game.
He's a
big difference. And Maury can start at the 20 versus the 40 or 50. That's a huge advantage for Stonebridge.
I want to do this very quickly. Maury Stonebridge, we didn't do it with other teams, but let's do this. If we go offense, who do we think has a better offense? I think
More.
I think it's Maury. I think we say Maury. Okay.
Yep.
Defense. Who has a better defense?
Maury.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean Maury too.
Really? Okay. Because Stonebridge has a really good defense.
Well, they got a great
Okay.
defense.
Yeah. All right. Special teams. Larry, I don't know. You've seen them. How's their special teams?
Yeah, they got some guys that, what Jason just said about him being able to kick the ball into the end zone like that, just keep them off the field. I mean, because they got guys who are explosive, they can do some things. They also got a pretty good punter kicker in McClung. But he hasn't kicked any field goals because they don't need.
They don't need to.
But he's had some good punts. He's had some good punts. But that'll be interesting to see.
So, do we give the edge to Stonebridge?
I got to give him some edge, man.
Yeah, give him some.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And last one, coaching.
Gosh, that's because Coach Thompson been around for. Look, Jason just said this is how many?
12 out of 24. But listen, DeRee McCain can coach. He can coach as off guys. I mean, he's not just building talent around you. You still got to be able to get those kids to execute. And every year in and year out, the last few years, he's proven that. So I mean, this is not about Mickey Thompson being better than DeRee McCain. I mean, McCain is an absolute phenomenal coach. So I'm going to call that one a wash. To be fair,
it's a wash, Jason.
Yeah.
Jason, it's not a wash. Mickey's done it, and he did it against McCain. But
McCain did it against him too. McCain did it against him too.
Okay, but yes. But
he's been to the state tournament 6 straight times.
Yes, but what I would say is this: McCain. 2 things that I noticed in that state championship 2 years ago, and I saw him last year. Is he has played those kids. And they have depth, but he plays them into the ground, and they, like Jason said, this is their 15th game as opposed to Stonebridge's 13th. And McCain, they can be up 50, 60, 70, and their starters are still playing, taking punishment. And in that championship game, the difference was Maury's quarterback was like, please give me a break. He put his hand up, and then he got hurt.
Well, here's the thing about that. He's got 2 other quarterbacks to take that quarterback's place if the quarterback does come out. He's got a kid that should have been the starter.
That's what I heard. Yes.
Yeah, and they've had. You talk about the players I played. I will give you an example. At Indian River game, none of his starters played in the second half.
Okay.
But the thing is, he had like 4 or 5 starters who didn't even play games until the 5th, 6th, 7th game of the season because of injuries. And then when they came back and they're ready to play, he still didn't play them because he wanted to make sure that they didn't get rushed. Watch for a kid named Daniels, a defensive back. He's all over the field. But
and last, okay.
Well, I will say this: the one thing that concerns me that Jason said that could really be is that the offense that Stonebridge run. There's nobody down here. The only offense that was different was that offense that ran, but that Dinwiddie ran, and it confused them. Dinwiddie did some stuff. They were like, and it's not the same offense, but it's still it's not a normal offense you see. And it took them a while to adjust. It took them all the way into the second half to adjust to that. And if you know Coach Thompson, he knows what he's doing. Those guys, that can cause some issues if you're not prepared. When you're not used to seeing that, how do you prepare for it? I mean, you can watch it all you want, but you can't get experience until you actually are in it.
And it definitely, I'll let you go, but it definitely neutralizes talent. Because talent looking that way and the ball went the other way does not matter.
Right.
Does not matter. Go ahead, Kirk.
I was just going to say, I had a blip. I had to reboot. But Coach Thompson is going to come on with Coach Overton. They're going to be on together. We're going to have a preview of these big games. I wanted to announce that, but I wanted to ask Jason Sterling, what are your thoughts on, in that single wing, Miles Turpin getting the ball more in this game?
Oh, I definitely could see him getting the ball more in this game. You've got to be careful wearing him out, obviously. Maury can lean on you. I mean, they've got some big defensive linemen. They've got strong hitters. So, Coach Thompson will try and find the right balance. A key to me, can Stonebridge survive an early Maury onslaught where they push it on you?
Right.
3 years ago when they played, Maury went up 28-0. It shook Stonebridge. They clawed back in that game. The game was at Hampton. They clawed back into that game to make it very close. It was 28-21 final. But the 28 points were too much. They just could not overcome it. Right. You know, what I'm looking at is like the 8-minute mark of the second quarter. What's the score at that point? If Maury's up at 21, it may be too late. If Stonebridge is hanging in there, we probably have ourselves a ball game.
Okay.
I like
So-
that, Jason. I like that, Jason. That's good.
Predictions? Did we do it already?
I'll tell you mine, guys. I don't want to give DeVry McCain any bulletin board material because I think that'd be a mistake. Maury's an uber talented team. I'm taking him 35-14. This is not a knock on my team. I'm going to be pulling hard for Stonebridge, obviously. I ultimately have to. I've seen what Maury can do. So as an unbiased predictor here, which you've asked me to be, I'm going to take Maury 35-14.
All right.
Justin?
Well, after hearing both Jason and Larry talk, I'm kind of scared of both teams.
Good.
I don't think I want a piece of either one of them. Especially anybody running the single wing. I mean, we had a team down here, Giles, that used to win state titles, running the single wing, and I remember being a photographer trying to find the ball. And like you're saying, you could be the best player in the state, but if you're looking over here and the guy's got it going there, it doesn't matter. I just think in this case, Maury's probably got a little too much.
Hey, here's a good, quick 10-second anecdote. Willis White, when he was coaching at Salem, when Mickey Thompson was at Parkview, they played in a couple games, and Willis White said playing against Mickey Thompson single wing was like playing Giles on steroids.
Yep.
Yeah.
I believe that was one of Mickey's last games at Parkview in the playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah. And they lost to, I believe they lost to Salem.
They did. It was close. Salem nipped them.
Yeah.
Larry?
I'm going to say 42-21, but I think it's going to be very close. Like we were talking, I think the first quarter and a half are going to be, because Maury's got to adjust. They can't overrun. They can't over pursue. They got to try to, and I think once they figure it out, then they got that speed and explosiveness they'll get some plays here, plays there that I think will break it open. But I think it's going to be a close game, at least for a half, maybe 3 quarters. But I think in the end, Maury wins 42-21.
All right. Kirk?
And I got to make an intellectual decision. My heart is saying Stonebridge can pull this out, but I'm going to pick as if I were betting on this in my livelihood. When I like Maury winning a very, very close game. Don't be surprised if it comes down to the wire and Stonebridge's kicker is the difference. But I like Maury winning by 3 to 6 points in another classic battle.
Yeah. And for me, I think Maury's going to win. It's going to be, I'm picking 28-24, but in no way would I be surprised if Stonebridge won this game. And I'll give you a couple of key things. One is this. We talked about coaches, but I think the way that last game ended, both coaches look pissed, okay? And this is going to be more than just your talent against my talent. Not taking anything away from McCain, but look, you got 1 title. Mickey's got 3, but you got to think Mickey was going against Lauren in those 3 years. Those games were going to overtime. And we're, who he's had to go against has been just some amazing and great teams.
Some of the best Phoebus teams ever.
Yes. So whether it was in the state championship or in a region semifinal, those were some great games, great teams. If Maury, who's used to putting everybody away, and it's close, do those kids and that coaching staff for Maury start to press?
Okay. What happened when they did Dinwiddie, when they played Highland Springs? I mean, they've been tested in that situation already against Wise. They were tested early. And
I'm gonna say this: Stonebridge was tested. They lost those 4 games, but they were tested, and they figured out ways to get better. When you're 14-0, you may not think your stuff stink. Let's see when somebody, hey, we got this, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get revenge. Oh, no, what the heck? This game in the third quarter is this?
Yeah. Larry,
17-14. What's going
Larry,
on?
if it's close, that mystique and aura that Stonebridge has will come into play. I do think Maury will prevail, but I do think those kids are going to be thinking about the master. He is famous for making adjustments. So whatever's not working, I think he'll make adjustments. And I think that seeing Miles Turpin in some space, maybe slotting up, maybe even taking some direct snaps. He's not the biggest kid. He's going to be great at Wake Forest, but that could be interesting. They've got other weapons also. So
all right, to close this out, because we got this panel of experts, I want to go ahead and go back to what I talked about before. Our top 4 teams. You tell me if I'm right or wrong on this. I'm going to say, based on what I'm hearing, let's go with Maury's 1, Freedom's 2, Phoebus is 3, Highland Springs 4. Do you all agree with that?
No.
Okay, so
Freedom's number 1.
Yeah, I would flip Freedom and Maury. I may change that after I see Maury this weekend.
That's fine.
Right. I've got to see Maury in person. I've seen Freedom in person a couple times. And I think they're eerily similar. And I think those two have actually separated themselves, in my opinion.
Okay, I agree. But that's my point was with that, what probably doesn't matter, because do you think 1 beats 4 and 2 beats 3 and they're in the finals?
Man, that would be it. One, you know what?
Can Phoebus beat either team to advance to a final? Can Highland Springs beat either team to advance to a final? Because in the end, that's probably what it would be, right?
I think it's more. It's definitely Maury and Freedom. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And then who do you have winning that?
On a neutral field?
Yes, state championship.
Freedom.
My goodness, Freedom, but I mean,
I know. That's why I asked the question.
Freedom. I feel you, Jason. Okay. I feel you, Jason. I'm like,
okay. All I'm saying is you must have some. You must have found some weakness in Maury to make you pick Freedom. And so, if it exists, they can be beat.
It's the immovable object against the unstoppable force argument, man.
I thought one little nugget. I thought before that DeMatha game was called, because was it Lightning? It was Lightning, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a Lightning weekend.
They had problems with that DeMatha quarterback. I think that DeMatha quarterback.
No.
I think that's my opinion.
I don't know if you remember. The only reason DeMatha scored was because of Freedom's kicking game. They scored 2 touchdowns because the punter dropped the ball. They picked it up and scored. That was 2 touchdowns.
So the point I
was
make
the difference.
Is I think that Freedom's defense has not seen anything like Maury. So I think that it would be a good game. But I think on the offensive end with Overton and those wide receivers and an unbelievable high school quarterback just broke the record for touchdowns. It's too much Freedom. But it's a hypothetical. So, it's the system. I'll stay with Freedom.
Okay. Now again, Freedom was human against Verina. Okay. So just some things to think about. Like we're seeing all these big scores. Nobody's really remembering. Hey, they did have some close games. All right. Anyway, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. Maybe we'll get you guys back on so we can all see how I was right. Okay. All right. All right. Look, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Justin, Jason, and Kirk. This has been tons of fun. This has been great. So for all those guys, this has been the Kirk and Byrd Show with your state final previews of 3, 4, and 5. We are out.